And appreciate the council being here. We'll go ahead and excuse Councilman Barry. Haven't heard if he can be here or not, so hopefully he'll sneak in. We've asked Councilman Busenbark to give us an opening prayer, and then we've asked our Chief of Police to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this opportunity to meet as a city council and residents of Roosevelt City. We're grateful for the residents of Roosevelt City for the service and the other opportunities that we have in this city. We're grateful for the blessings we have, the freedoms we enjoy, this land we live in. We're grateful for those that service, both in the military as well as those in police and fire and others that help provide us safety and security. We're grateful to thee and love thee, and we say this in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
All right, our first item is the approval of last meeting minutes. Do we have any questions or amendments? Corrections?
The only corrections were just when we went to closed session and then came back from closed and then closed the meeting. Sunshine has those from the best of our memory, so they should be closed. So that was all I had. I don't know if anyone had anything else.
Anything else? Move to approve. Okay, we have a motion by Councilman White.
Second.
Second by Councilman Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll go to our public comment period. We do have quite a few people here tonight, and we do have a fairly heavy schedule. So if you do take an opportunity to address the council, we'll give you up to 3 minutes. We will keep that right at 3 minutes. And I'm actually getting my timer ready to go. So are there any here tonight that would like to take that opportunity to visit with the council? Yes.
I'm Hal Huff with 108 South. Very appreciative of the new street that we put a couple years ago. And I couldn't hear the bend of your ear, but I see here we're getting 2 new officers sworn in tonight, so that's part of what I'm an old man, I'm OSU, old slow and ugly. And I parked my one vehicle, and by the time I look in the mirror, get my cane out the door, and there's somebody come whizzing by, and, I think they try to think how close it comes back into the door. But anyway, it's nice to get to new officers, and perhaps we can control and stop a little bit more, in the fact that it is a path for the kids to go to school.
Sure.
So, anyway, that's my story. So, anyway.
It's good to see you, Hal. And we've got our chief of police that's listening intently right now. So.
Yeah, this morning, if he was doing 50 miles an hour, I need your hat, but he got a ticket, so.
Good.
Good. That's what kind of wanted to hear. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you got him. Thanks, Hal. Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Marie Woodward, and my children grown up a long time ago, but when they were young, they had friends, they would come, my children were not well off financially, but they would come to Roosevelt and play on the basketball court, and this is a reason I don't understand why there is no outdoor basketball court for the kids to play anymore. I had a grandson who was over there playing just 2 or 3 weeks ago with his friends.
Thank you. And we are working on getting those replaced. Thank you.
My name's Todd Party. I came in front of this group 2 weeks ago. You all know who I am. We did have a meeting on the following. I still got issues. I would like to know why the contractor dropped the poles the way he did on the basketball court and why they were dismantled. If you take them poles, you could have got $500 a piece out of them poles and them the backs pretty easily. That's $2,000 we could have saved right there. Why were they cut up? Why was the contractor told to dismantle and remove that playground equipment? That's my question to you guys. You know? Stop and think about it, guys. If it was just them the basketball stands, how many more instances like that are going each day, each week, each month? $2,000 an incident, that's a lot of money getting wasted. And I do believe there might be a lot against what happened there. At best, you need to investigate that, please. That does bother me. As bad as the kids not having basketball court. As a taxpayer, that's not right as taxpayers. Please investigate it.
Thanks, Don. Any others? Seeing none, we'll move forward with our meeting agenda. First of all, we'll turn the time over to our chief of police. He's got a couple of new officers he'd like to swear in. We're excited to meet them.
Micah Bella, Matthew Bella. Raise your right hand and be sworn in.
I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the state of Utah,
of the state of Utah,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the same,
to the same,
and defend them against enemies,
and defend them against enemies,
foreign and domestic.
foreign and domestic.
On my honor,
On my honor,
I will never betray my integrity,
I will never betray my integrity,
my character,
my character,
or the public's trust.
or the public's trust.
I will always have the courage
I will always have the courage
to hold myself
to hold myself
and others accountable
and others accountable
for our actions.
for our actions.
I will always maintain
I will always maintain
the highest ethical standards,
the highest ethical standards,
upholding the values
upholding the values
of my community
of my community
and the agency I serve.
and the agency I serve.
And I will faithfully
Faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of a peace officer
of a peace officer
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
So if you haven't figured out yet, they're actually brothers. We have mom coming up for Micah. Ben. Oh, blood. That's tradition, by the way. Stand by for a second. We'll have Dad come up. Matthew. Introduce yourself to the city council. We're all around the back.
Mom, how do you feel about that? We're grateful to have you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thanks, Chief. Appreciate you. I will mention, because you weren't paying attention the last time I gave you a compliment, they're joining a really good force. I have to say, when I became the mayor, we were considered and I'm going to say second, maybe it was first, but at least the second most dangerous city in Utah per capita. And now we're not even on the top 10 list. And these gentlemen have reduced violent crime by over 37%, and other crime as well.
Group effort. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all you do. All right. K. Thank you. It's gonna be a long night. We're gonna need those.
So my name is Brett Kettle, and I'm here hopefully representing K. We wanted to.
Sorry.
Come and report on the creek. That's my main purpose for being here. Looks like there's another annotation there for me limited as well. This year was kind of a little different than normal. I don't know if it was in conjunction with the fact that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints had a visiting authority, or just what it was on the opening weekend, but it was very, very slow in comparison. Last year, looking at the numbers, all week long, we had close to 155 tons of trash coming in from Roosevelt City. This year, I believe it says 89.99, so 99 tons. Difference of 65 ton, I think, if that's, I get my math right. So considerably less. Basically, 5 semi-loads of trash was hauled off. There's some other numbers there. Basically, the rate stayed the same this year for the use of the semi, tobacco, and the wages. So, yeah. It's kind of a story. Any questions, thoughts, opinions? Years past, when we've had slow years like this, there was one year that it rained all week long. The council chose to extend it another week. I didn't really make those phone calls this year. If we're certainly not opposed to working with whatever arrangements need to be made in respective situations. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, thank you.
And you might as well remain if you would. We have, we can just get you right on the next one. So sanitary fee schedule discussion.
So I believe we were here.
Before we go to the next one, is there any questions, comments from the council on the final report? Okay, thanks, Brett. Continue. Sorry.
I can't remember when we were here. I believe it was middle of January, as I recall. At that point in time, I thought, I think as a general rule, it was approved to increase the fee of each can by $1. We had had some discussions prior to that. There were lots of things that went into it. When we submitted the fee schedule, for whatever reason, I believe that, call it a typo, call it an overlook, call it whatever you want to call it, but on the second can, I believe previously it was $31.51 for the total of the two cans, which only reflected the dollar increase for the first can.
I did notice that. And I didn't know whether that was intentional or what, so it is getting addressed.
It wasn't intentional, but like I say, we kind of thought that we approved the dollar per can. So currently, right now, my understanding is the city is building $32.51. And that reflects the dollar on the first can. So ultimately, I guess I'm resubmitting the fee schedule at the $33.51 rather than the $32.51. Like I say, I kind of thought the council approved the dollar increase, but we were kind of asked to come back and rectify that. So,
Is it just on the second can is all that we need to make the adjustment?
and I think the adjustments, I'm not sure what was submitted on the third and fourth can, and I apologize for that, but I believe the numbers that are here reflect what the price should be for the third and fourth can, and whatever the circumstances those are. I'm not sure which ones those are.
Yeah, I think the intent was to, I mean, there was a percentage that we were raising basically all the cans, and so the second one would probably follow the same, or
Not on this.
Approved based on what they submitted, and what they submitted did not have. to
Didn't
agree
have
for
any.
the second. To do anything more would require reopening the fee schedule and doing a public hearing.
Right, that's what I was gonna say.
which we can do.
But I'm pretty sure if you were to go back 2 minutes, that
We did talk about per can.
Mhm.
We did talk about $1 per can.
So it's up to you guys. I'm not gonna fight with you. I'm not here for that.
I think it might depend on how we made the motion. If we made the motion to approve dollar increase per can, that would probably
Essentially,
stand, but I think if we made the motion to approve fee schedule as presented,
I'm gonna have to read
then we
it.
would have to do it, so.
It's up to you.
And it's a simple fix. It's something we just need to run through, so.
It was approved as submitted.
So let's, if we can just get that
Next time.
adjustment in our next meeting, so we can get it fixed.
Thank you.
Mr. Bradford. Okay, next, proposed amendments to Roosevelt City Code Titles 10 and 12. We should put you. I'm just kidding, Drew. Jump on it.
Mike's gonna be the one talking, so you can blame him. So just bringing this back for titles 10 and 12. They were not passed last time when we brought the whole slug of titles to you for review. And the two sections in question was parking and snow removal. We had option 1, parking is prohibited on public streets within the city during winter months than it does define winter months in C, which would be December 1st through March 1st, or option 2, which goes into detail of during storms for up to 48 hours thereafter, or until snow plowing and the snow removal efforts are completed. It goes into a little bit more depth, but we're looking for some direction from the council on that one for Title 10, so we can move forward. And then Title 12, we have a few as well. If you'd like, we can.
So I know in Logan, it's just in winter months, you don't park on the street, but in Rexburg, it's in winter months, you can't park on the street between 11 PM and 7 AM. So I don't know if that's something that would fit us.
It's hard because you never know when it's going to snow, but you
Right.
obviously I've had the snow pushed up by certain time.
I like that they just can't be there, because you might park there and leave town, and then it snows and we're plowing around you, but.
We have a lot of people parking on the street anyway, which is kind of difficult for street sweeping and cleaning and things like that, so that's kind of what do you think? Yeah, I was almost gonna ask if you would, please.
So, a couple of things is, everybody that has parked on the streets expects to park on the streets. And to what extent are you gonna do it? Can the FedEx guy park on the street to deliver a package? Can the plumber who's fixing something park there? What about your kids on Thanksgiving, Christmas? Can they park there? I think it should be that it's only when it snows. When it snows, you have to have your car moved. That's it. Otherwise, I don't even think that we can have the manpower to do it.
I think that was my, if we do it between a month and a certain month or whatever, I mean, it makes it clean. I don't know if I'm gonna be doing it every night, as if you've got, the snow comes in at so many hours before or so. I kind of like that idea with the between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. Combined type thing. That's already put up.
I think those are good suggestions. I know, like, for me, the biggest thing I have a problem with is cars parked there that are there for months or, without being moved, so.
And that's also something we take care of with registration, insurance. They have to have registration, they have to have insurance. They have to be operable, so if the car is flat tire, stuff like that. But we can take care of that on a different thing,
Okay.
not the snow removal. Right. It's just if we could do it only when it snows. we'd have
And also only when it snows between 11 and 6? What was the?
You want both or one or the other?
Yeah.
Well, I worked best with the two before, and in cities I've been in before, so, and I wish Kirby was here, because it depends on when his suggestion on the plows are out too, so that would also be early.
And a lot of times, especially on school routes, they're out well before 11.
Yeah.
So.
And just on a side note, the vehicles that we're addressing here, not with the snow removal, now that we've tackled the big issues, we're starting to trickle down to the other ones. Well, hopefully here really soon, we're gonna see a lot of these cars and registrations and stuff being taken care of on that, without this code here.
One more thing, Drew, and I don't know if they can add that if the car is parked there and there is snow, to make it easier to tow it, make it easier to cite it, so that there is some teeth to it. So when there is snow that needs to be plowed, the car needs to be moved. So, yeah, something like that, where we can just tow it out of the way.
That is a good suggestion.
People expect it.
I would like to know Kirby's opinion as well, because he's the one who ultimately has to deal with the repercussions. So you guys enforce it, but then he's got to deal with, the plows and everything else. And I'm just curious how difficult that is. Well, we know your situation. I know what you're going to say. We took a bunch of his front yards. He doesn't have a whole lot of places to park. But did I get it right?
You got every,
Have you talked to Kirby to give his input?
Either way, I think she's spoken with him quite a bit as well.
I have had extensive conversations, kicking ideas back and forth with him. I believe he follows in that early morning would be the best time to plow. And that's when he does, right? And that's where you prefer.
Mike, do you have any suggestions as far as the towing? What officer to simplify that process? Yeah, because we don't really have, we do have, as far as junk vehicles, but on the snow removal side, we don't have a lot of teeth in that. So if we're going to limit it to hours during snowstorm, that might be a good option to put in there.
Okay, so let me say, sorry, Mike Hanson, road meeting consultants, just for the record. Yeah, so had a provision that talked about accessibility for tow vehicles. Or enforcement, I should just say, maybe.
Do you know what?
We could,
Go ahead, Mike, sorry.
no, we could figure out right then.
What I'm wondering is, why don't you get with Kirby, Chief of Police, Mike, and yourself, and come up with a really good solution that you can present to the council? Because I think we're gonna rely on those that actually do it more than anything.
They feel comfortable with that, with the input that we just heard. Yeah, I think we can come to the recommendation.
Sounds great. So that takes care of 10. Title 12, we had a discussion on.
All right, I just thought I had to pull up all the.
Title 12, R 12.20.050. And this would be the golf course discussion that we had last time, as far as trespassing on golf course and associated grounds and animals prohibited sections. So have you had a chance to come up with a rebuttal from last time? We did present it to council last time. It was recommended to have you guys review and come back for recommendations on those two as well.
So I live there. I border there. And so for me personally, we go out our back gate, we clean up the leaves along our fence, we sleep along there. I go out my back gate, I walk over to my sister's. And so I think that they put this in there to help people that were accessing the golf course and golfing without paying. The part where it says entrance to or exit from the golf course and its associated grounds shall only be allowed through designated access points as established by the golf professional and their designee. And I think maybe we could put something in there that the golf carts or something, like my neighbors on both sides of me exit their back gates and clean up along their fences. I don't know, to me, if we're trying to crack down on people that are golfing without paying, then maybe we need to put in there the words that say that.
Golf cart language.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We have Aaron here. Aaron, what are your thoughts on this, and what was the original intent?
The original intent was we have just a lot of non-golfers out walking with dogs or just walking in general. Just this past week, we had two little girls on scooters out there. One of them broke her collarbone. We have people just randomly on e-bikes, just different things of people coming in and out. Just like a way to be able to approach them and let them know that they can't be on.
I'm curious about liability also, and what happens with city's insurance company and stuff like that. Are we protected? We need things to protect ourselves.
Well, Grant can speak to it as well, but in discussions with the trust, they say absolutely nobody but paying customers on that.
So we're opening ourselves up to risk by.
Can we expand the discussion on liability a bit?
Well, let's finish this.
Yeah, and we're willing to support whatever. I mean, the majority of the homeowners that live there are not problem. They're not the problem.
And we're walking it. The Duncans walk, I walk, but when I walk it, it's early or late and there's not golfers and there are not a lot. Like I see it out my back. I'm on the back 9, so I can't really speak to the front 9, but I'm not seeing a ton. Like there's not a ton of traffic, but there is occasionally some.
And I'd like to have Grant come in, but if there are comments from the public, let's have you, if you would just raise your hand, we'll have you come up and we'll give you an opportunity if you'd like. Yeah, we'll give you an opportunity if you like, but is Grant here? This one? Oh, hello. I'm just used to you being in that other room, Grant. What are your thoughts on this as far as, have you looked into this from a liability standpoint?
Yeah, there are some liability concerns there, mostly having to do with the mixed use, because the golf can create a hazard to other people being on the course. So there is an increase in liability, will access it, but not paying golfers.
And then, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to speak about the liability issue.
Can you tell us-
Katie Duncan.
Thank you.
Yeah. Duchesne County resident, but, we do live along the 14. My question, I guess, is, with the building of the ballparks in the middle of what is now our walking path, what is the liability implications of that?
The baseball part, you wanted to know what the liability is on the walking path with the ballpark going in there.
That seems a bit risky to a walker.
It could increase it, I guess. I don't know, how often are we getting balls hit out? Not that.
Well, where it's designed as a youth complex, that'd be pretty, I mean, I guess there's kids that could hit that far, but.
I had.
It's not something I considered. I guess that it could increase it, but I would need more information because I don't know how likely it is the balls would be going out there. On the golf course, it varies there depending on who the golfer is, how far they're hitting, and how accurately. But I would think that there's a greater risk of increased liability on the golf course than there would be at the ball.
Okay, so, and I appreciate what you're saying. I think personally, I stand a much greater chance of being hit by a golf ball in my backyard. And then as to the issue of liability, we had a window broken by a golfer this weekend. And we're not able to hold them liable unless they accept responsibility. So I find it a very hard argument for you guys to make that I would be holding the city or a golfer responsible for a personal injury for risk I'm accepting when I can't hold them responsible for property damage.
The property damage is an issue between the golfer and the private property owner, not the city. But the city would be liable. I'm not sure I understand what you're saying, but the city could be liable for anybody who's hurt on the golf course if they're hit by a golf ball.
Because
for allowing them to be on there. We don't have rules like this saying that they can't be.
Okay.
Because we'd be allowing a mixed use. That would increase liability.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate the comments. I think then I would just say it's largely publicly funded. It's not a private course. And that's my comment. I believe you'll receive my email. Thank you.
Can I comment?
Sure.
I'm Trudy Duncan, and I also live border the golf course. My husband and I walked the perimeter of the golf course forever, you guys. I mean, look at. So, what I want to say is, and I'm like, Audrey, my husband and I usually walk before there's golfers out. Okay? This week we walked, we didn't see one golf. Why on earth can't we put something in there that we can walk the perimeter of that golf course and enjoy the beauty up there? We are taxpayers. And the other thing I want to say is we are your eyes on 14. We saw the incident where the razor scooters crashed. We saw golf carts crash into each other this weekend. City property. We're your eyes. We are doing things for you. I'm not asking to go out there and walk during the tournament or when we're anywhere near some golfers' way. Okay, so I guess that's where I'm coming from. I think we can work together. I don't say that we should open it up and say it's a walking path and just welcome everyone, but what we're asking is not a problem. And I honestly don't think that the priority is to worry about somebody getting hit with a golf ball. I've looked at the percentages and the nationwide. I've asked ER doctors, and they say it's golf cart rollovers, it's golf cart crashes, it's little kids being run over by golf. It's not. So I think we need to really work on enforcing those other issues. There's a lot of things going on there that need enforced, and I kind of think we're being hard on us if we're saying that we can't walk up there. You know, I just want to maintain a good rapport and relationship, and I felt really good about it, and that's all I ask.
Thank you. One thought that I do have, and I don't want to sound controversial in any way, but it's an observation more than anything. And that is, I think one of the concerns, at least that I see, is how do we allow some but not all? And so how do we monitor it? So if we allow it to be a dual use, or if we say it's okay for some to walk there, how do we restrict others from just coming in and doing the same? Because I know I used to live up there as well. And so I understand the dynamic, and it's like almost an extension of your backyard.
Well, and it's a little give and take because there is.
But
you put
let
up
me
with
finish
that.
really quickly, sorry. But just the thought is, how, and the compromise is, Aaron, and I don't know how we do that, but how do we allow some use without allowing all use, and how do we keep that, liability is one thing, but then, if we allow some use, how do we restrict certain use? And sorry, but I just wanted to finish that thought.
What, Aaron, are there hours up there right now for the golfers, like opening and closing time, and with walkers, did you allow them on before and after those?
So we're open pretty much sun up to sundown. We don't have specific hours, just what's in the weather permitting, daylight permitting, but we're open to whatever facilities you want to allow us to do or allow people to do.
Hey, that's the first possibility that comes to mind for me, Mayor. But another thing to be clear on is that saying that there's an increase in liability doesn't mean that you can't allow dual use either. It's just informing you that the liability could be increased. And I have no idea what the likelihood of being hit is. I would assume that it probably is fairly slim, and probably there's a greater likelihood in some areas than others. And so if you wanted to allow it in certain areas and not other areas, of course, I think that would be an option. But you guys can decide to do whatever you want with it. I just want to make sure that it's clear that it's saying, yes, there's an increase in liability. It's not saying, no, you can't allow.
Audrey, you had a comment, and then I had another thought.
Just living on the golf course is good and bad. There's good and bad that comes with it. And just like the Duncan saying they had a window broken, and I've had a windshield broken, and and so I think as we're setting a really hard, we don't come across as understanding that give and take a little bit with them. If we're being like, don't go out your back day, don't step on the golf course, I don't know, I just feel like that's a little harsh. I pick up balls in my yard every 2 or 3 a week during the summer, so it's a liability for me to sit in my yard a little bit too, but I don't know. I just have a really hard time saying you can't do that when it's been happening since, the back nine built next to my parents. My parents were there first, and my mom walked it the whole time they were there, so. But I don't want to be interrupting golf either, and I know the Duncans go. Do you go early or late, Roger?
Pretty early usually.
Yeah, and like Friday, Bill and I went later. It was a tournament day, but the tournament was over, and then we didn't pass a single golfer. I just have a hard time saying that's something we can't do. I don't want people there interrupting golf, people on scooters and e-bikes and those kinds of things. I think those we can crack down on, but I don't know that the walkers are. And maybe putting that time frame in, that you're not there during the thick of the day because it's, Sunday afternoon, so it's pretty thick. the traffic, the golfing traffic, so.
Good thoughts. Are there any other reason? I mean, liability is one, but I can see that, I mean, we assume liability in other areas. Is there other reasons or concerns that you have?
Vandalism, see that occurring occasionally, it's actually been cut down a little bit, but that's another issue that we deal with when they're on there. Some of the vandalism.
So you guys wouldn't vandalize our buildings.
Yeah, I don't think the vandalism's your walkers.
I can tag in the
I'm just,
I'm not calling out the homeowner.
Yeah.
I'm just saying these are some issues that we have with people that are on there.
sure. My biggest thing, again, it goes back to my thought, is it's not liability, it's do we get ourselves into trouble when we allow certain people to do that, not all, and how do we make that?
You could, and there are probably some ways around that too. I mean, we charge people to be able to use it for golf, but theoretically, I guess you could sell walking passes too, and then you'd be able to regulate, or put yourself in a better position to regulate who's allowed to walk.
And
so it wouldn't just be free reign for anybody.
Could we say, let me ask this question, because there's benefits and the pros and cons of living up there, right? Broken windows versus home values and everything else. I mean, there's a desire to live by a golf course because of other reasons too. Is there a way to say if you own a home in the area, then, because I thought this when I moved up there, what in the world when I get to just golf for free? Access, but I'm not suggesting that either, I know. But what I'm getting at is there a way that just says if your property abuts the golf course, then you can access the golf course during these times or something like that?
Yeah,
and limit it to that.
Well, let me answer it in two parts. Because to say if your property abuts the golf course can you access it, I think that would be pretty simple to build into the code, where instead of just saying that there's only access at designated points, you could have something in there saying that property owner contiguous to the golf course can access on their own property. And, so things like the gate in the backyard, that people who live there would still be able to access that. But then for use, like it's a little bit harder because we could run into problems like saying that if you have property adjacent to the golf course, that you can use the golf course and somebody who doesn't have adjacent property can't. I think we could address the access separately, say that the people who live there can still use the course, but then if we're wanting for it to be dual use, the more I think about it, I really think there should be something like a walking pass or something that's different than a golf pass. And then we'd have to work with Aaron to figure out if we needed to set certain hours or areas or something for the walking pass. But I think you'd want to keep those separate, the path and the property owners.
One thought I had with that too, do we allow animals on the golf course? Yeah, and that's the other thing is, if we allow walkers, are they going to be, when you're golfing, you don't want to worry about feces and things like that, and worry about those issues, right?
In that recreation survey, it was mentioned quite a bit that people didn't want dogs and.
Yeah. So it is, I don't know.
Good comment. So I really like what Grant's saying with, if we could come up with and what you guys involved in saying, I like the idea of time and areas that are allowed, like we had a kind of a map overview of just kind of where we would allow walking, and then I like the idea of a walking pass, and maybe even give like a discounted price or a free pass to those on the golf course for the basically like the who was it that mentioned that there are things that they do for us, they're our eyes and ears out there. If there's a benefit there for that for us, then why can't we give them a walking pass and then also sell those to other people who want to use the course? Maybe have like hours that it can be done and areas provided that can happen on. So just a thought.
Can I ask really quickly, because I might be a little out of the loop, did you have your hand up, Doug?
I did.
Okay. The question that I have really quickly is, this come to the meeting tonight? I mean, obviously, there's something that spurred this, or
Yeah.
so can you tell me what?
The last few years, we haven't noticed a lot of activity on the golf course. Yeah, we haven't really ever had issues with it until the last few years. We started to notice a lot more activity. So this year, when we started, actually a few years ago, the golf course actually had like a mascot dog, and a local that lived on the golf course complained about it. And that dog had been up there for almost 10 years and never caused any problems. But a homeowner that resided there had an issue with the dog that was there. And so we actually discussed this in detail a little bit a few years ago and agreed that dogs wouldn't be allowed on the golf course. And we've been trying to enforce that. And we've always just understood that it was kind of no trespassing unless you paid your fees, as most golf courses are. And so we've noted, like the year before this year, we started to notice a lot of people out walking. We were finding trash, just different things. And so this year, as the year started, we decided that we were going to enforce it and just let people know that they're to be out there just using it to walk and recreate. And so upon doing that, some homeowners could not joke about it. So that's why we're at this point.
Well, that makes sense. If you have other people that are utilizing it, maybe leaving their trash. Obviously, it's not the homeowners, but it's difficult to enforce it on certain people and not on others, and I get that. So I just wanted to understand why all of a sudden it became a problem where, the golf courses existed for.
Yeah.
I'm not that old, I wouldn't say, but it's almost as old as Trudy.
Did our greenskeeper mention something like if people get on the course early in the morning, that it does some kind of damage to
Yeah, if you get on when there's frost, it will kill the grass. I mean, it'll come back, but it does leave tracks and different things like that. His concern also is when he's spraying. So when he sprays fertilizer with different chemicals, we will close that side of the golf course down, not let the public on there so they don't come in contact with that. So that can be a concern. If people are out there just walking, he's applying some of his stuff. So.
But just to give my 2 cents is I support whatever we can come up with that allows some public use because public money goes to that.
Yeah.
And to say, if you're not a golfer, you're not welcome here. I don't like that because most people in the city are not probably golfers.
Right. Yeah, we'll support whatever direction you want to go.
If we can make it so it addresses the concerns that you have, but also allows some use, whether that be certain areas, I think is appropriate and certain times. And I think we can hopefully make a consensus or an agreement here that benefits everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Brother Ogden had his name up there, isn't it?
Thank you. My sentiments were echoed very well by Jersey, as far as being good neighbors and utilizing this resource that we have, the city subsidizes. As a dog owner, I love taking my dog out and running him. I don't let him run without a training collar. I don't go without, well, I have snuck out without a boot bag, but I've gone back and picked it up. So I think that we can educate the people who are most likely to use the golf course with pets, that they need to be responsible. And I just don't see that as being a huge deal. I don't let my dog on the greens, I don't let him on the tee boxes. Like I said, I want to be a responsible neighbor. And I think we can work something like that. I think the pass would be one way to educate the users to the requirements that they clean up after their dogs.
Well, I thanks for the comments. I think we've hit this pretty heavily. I don't think we're in a position that we want to make a decision yet, but I think we've got a lot of good input from the people in the area and appreciate that. Brett, did you have one additional comment?
Just one additional, it's kind of like.
Come up to the microphone. Or Sunshine will yell.
So I think this is a lot like the issue with parking on the street. Who's gonna monitor? Where's the marshalling that's gonna happen on this one?
We have some marshals and we have obviously ground keepers and things like that, so it's a little more closely watched on the golf course than streets, but.
I can tell you that. No, I'll just. I know for a fact that there are a lot of people who use the golf course that never pay. And so that's my.
Can you let us know, because we're gonna.
No, I can't.
We have 2 days for you. As soon as the meeting is over.
It was not me, I promise. And I will tell you that if I were on the golf course, you wouldn't want to be close because I probably would hit you.
Well, that's good discussion, and I appreciate everybody's comments and participation. And I think it's good that we mull it around and give our legal counsel and see if we can't come up with a good decision.
Thank you for your considerations on these. Is there anything else on 12 that you guys wanted us to review? We did add nature park in there where it was previously not, with some rules. If you've got any concerns or comments, make some comments. Yeah, that works. But we're going to get another glance at this. We don't need to do that tonight, but
yeah,
just review that. And Mike, are you still with us? Okay. You're waking up now?
Yeah. No,
okay, we'll work with you on both of those sections, 10 and 12, and see if we can come up with something to bring back to the council.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. All right,
Thanks,
thank you.
Drew. Chief, we're gonna turn the time back to you. We have 9C and 9D.
Just for the record, the other council meeting, Mayor, when you were giving me a compliment, I was in the other room getting one from Grant, and I was quite enjoying that. And so 9C and 9D go together, actually. But 9C, so in Senate Bill 124, and Sunshine puts together this very well in educating or in our agenda. Senate Bill 124 requires by the end of the year for us to have an early intervention system. That's an officer or an indicator or a system of some sort that indicates problems or patterns from officers that I can recognize and either address or confirm or whatnot. So there is some grant money out for the program that I decided to go with. That's the first on 9C is the memorandum of agreement in the state of Utah. And that is for, you want me to do them both together? Just
yes, please.
Okay. So what the program we decided is called Know Your Force. Know Your Force, the reason I like this program here is it uses a QR code. The QR code we're going to have on patrol cards, we're going to have on business cards, we're going to have on letterhead. Everywhere is going to be a QR code. And when you interact with an officer, the citizen has the ability to pull up that QR code and give feedback on positive, negatives, and offer referral or reference to citations or case numbers or so forth. I like this program because all the other programs I looked into only concentrated on the negative. I also wanted some of the positive as well. And this will collect both. So when collecting information in both positive but mostly negative, I'm able to confer a pattern or so forth with video or audio or on video, a body camera footage and so forth from that. And as it states in the bill, early intervention. Maybe I can curtail the behavior and or whatnot. And that's the system that I decided to use. So they do have a grant that we applied for and it was awarded for this, if the mayor signs it, for initial implementation fee of $5,000 plus 21 or $100 per officer. Now, the fee for after this year, it will be $100 per officer. However, I'm being told there'll probably be some more funding that's not after for the next year or two or whatever. But I think $100 an officer to get this type of feedback is some good information. I think it's very worthwhile, especially if we have to have a program in effect, or a program adopted for this, things.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, we have a motion to approve to accept free money, I mean, not free money, but grant money.
Would the motion need to be for both 9C and 9D? Do they need to be separate?
I think it's fine to do them all.
And then 6,700 apiece. Is that what it's?
It is, it's not more.
What's that?
6,700 in each agreement.
And then, so it's 6,700 initial, that's 5,000 setup plus $100 per officer, and they have 21 here. That's what we got the grant for. So the grant, the agreement with the state of Utah is for 6,700.
Total?
Total. And that's for the year. And then next year, of course, it'll be $100 an officer, but try to get some more funding for that. That's a big deal. But then the second, 9D, would be entering into the agreement with Know Your Force itself.
Okay.
So it's the two.
So I move we approve the memorandum of agreement to, and as well as the Know Your Force agreement, with the, I don't know, do we need anything else in that?
So I wrote motion to approve both the grant memorandum and Know Your Force contract for the same amount.
Sounds good, that's what I'm saying. Thank you for clarifying for me.
So we have a motion on the floor, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilman Goodrich. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Rhonda. For the fiscal year preliminary budget approval 2025.
Everybody's favorite subject. So, before you have the preliminary numbers that we come up with, we will have one more meeting with each of the departments just to make sure we've got everything covered. There has been some movement of personnel, expenses between departments, trying to make it a little more transparent in what the actual departments are costs are to run those departments. That is all regulated by state. We do have to charge the different departments what they use for the personnel, just so that we have a better picture of what does it cost us to run an admin department or a public works department. So, and as we changed, the roles played by some key personnel as well, that's required we do some moving around of all of that. With all of that said, we're looking at about a flat budget for year over year, for fiscal year, for the general budget. One of the main drivers in that is that we will not be transferring anything to capital projects this year from the general fund. However, our debt service does increase this year by about 200,000. We'll be making our first payment on our sports complex, and we'll begin the repayment on the State Street as well. So that's in there. Any questions at all on anything you see on general fund?
I just noticed the variance is $500,000, $556,000. Just curious, it looks like we're dropping it just a little bit.
The variance, yes. Rather than flat, it's actually a little bit of a decline. And
Okay.
again, the increase in the debt service and then the decrease in what will be pushing to capital projects is the main driver behind it. And then, if there's no further questions, on page 2, you'll see the debt service. It does show the increase there, which, as I said, were for the loans that we have taken on. And below that, capital projects. We have, at this point in time, a few new projects that we will be presenting in the budget. Although there are not a lot, however, we do have a lot of carryover that we will be bringing unfinished projects from this fiscal year and rolling that over into the next fiscal year, but those funds are already captured in the capital projects. And water fund. Water fund, it's pretty close to a flat budget year over year. A slight increase, expected profitability. Sewer fund. At some point, I think we're probably going to have to look at the possibility of doing some fee adjustments for our sewer system. It's not a new system. I know there's maintenance things that we're going to be looking at somewhere in the near future, and this sewer fund has not been as profitable as maybe it should be to be able to maintain what we need to do with that. So, just a heads up, we'll get with Kirby and see if there's something we would like to propose, but that's just something that we need to be aware of. And last but not least is sanitation. So sanitation does not look good at this point in time. We are upside down by that. It's not quite as large as shown here. We've got $7,000 or $8,000 of our city fees that we have paid year to date that have actually been miscoded, I found today. So we're actually upside down about $72,000 on the sanitation year to date. And the majority of that is that, again, the sanitation company is being paid for all services that are being provided, and we're not collecting 100% of those fees. So as you can see, we've collected revenues of $750,000, and they have been paid year to date $835,000. So.
One quick question on the sewer fund and the water fund. Are those sinking funds where we can, if we do have overage year to year, we can?
They're enterprise funds, so
Okay.
yes, they are handled separately from the general fund. Those funds are handled more like a business fund.
Yeah. Have we, like on the sewer fund, because I see we have overages on some years and that money being accumulated, because obviously there's certain ways you have to treat those funds to pull any money out other than putting that money back into that exact fund, right?
Yeah, yes, at any time, should those funds be needed, it is at the council's discretion that we can take those funds and move them. Just as we've got a lot of, and part of that's captured in capital budgets that, we've got money earmarked for projects at the golf course to do designated water lines up there and some irrigation. We've also got money set aside for the cemetery expansion. Well, we'll put another 100 towards that, so I think it's like 300,000 we'll have sitting there earmarked for that. And it is earmarked, and I keep tabs of that in the budget so you know that's there, but that's also not something that cannot be utilized if it's needed for some other purpose. So that would be at your discretion to be able to do that.
So one thing that I would like to see, if we entertain raising rates, is what are our savings accounts look like with those funds?
Absolutely, yes.
So that we take that into consideration before we.
Absolutely.
Any other thoughts for Rhonda?
I have a question, just for my information. the aquatic center, we've got it for the proposed budget for 2025 is a little over $1 million. And last year we proposed 836,000 and we've only spent 470,000. I'm just curious.
That's revenue.
What's that? That's under expenses, isn't it? Oh, total revenue. No, that's.
Yes, he's reading that right. Our budget is 840, just under 840,000. We've spent just under 500, and the budget is. There are expenses that we have not captured that will still be incurred in this fiscal year. A big one being water. Now that we're in secondary water, the next couple of months are going to be big water months for many of our departments. And like I say, that's a state regulation that I do keep track of how much our different departments use and that we push that expense to those departments. So that we have visibility of what that department costs to run. Okay, there's a potential, and I just got this as I may have made a bit of an error here, but I'll have to get back with Brock. I've got their temporary wages doubling, and I don't think that is happening unless there's a lot more swimmers coming in. I'm unaware. So there's a potential that will be going down, which will put us even below on this year to year. But worst case, this is where we should be.
This is just preliminary, right?
This is the preliminary to let you have an idea of like what it is we're proposing for this coming year. We'll have the details. I should have those to you hopefully by next week, and then we will present the final with details at the next council meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see the revenue expense detailed out in each.
Yes, I'll give you a breakdown by department so you can see exactly how much we're subsidizing each department.
Good. Thank you. Thanks, Rhonda.
You're welcome. One thing I probably should tell you, that's probably rather important. This does include a 3% COLA for all city employees, as well as, which would take effect July 1st, and then the steps, the step schedule that Josh has created. We're looking to break that so that the steps will begin January 1st. So it's offset through the year. So this budget has a 3% increase for COLA for personnel in beginning July 1st and then January 1st step, which is of course merit-based, so it won't be across all personnel.
Is there a reason they decided to stagger that?
Something that Josh and I kind of tossed back and forth. I think for clarity of the fact that one is merit-based and the other one is just a COLA, which is, cost of living and across the board. And I think it was really intended more than anything to have a little more transparency on those so they're not commingled. It was really interesting because we checked with a lot of other cities to see what it is they do. And some call it a COLA, some call it a raise, some call it a step. I mean, they have different names that they do it. Some break it down into different, as we're doing, part of it's an increase, a merit increase, part of it's a COLA. It's all over the place. So I say that just, as we looked at all of them, we were trying to determine what brings the most transparency to this. The state also passed this year a bill that states that for department head level and up, there has to be a separate, and not necessarily separate, there has to be a public hearing to make things very clear as to what any increases are. This stems from somewhere somebody gave themselves a nice big fat raise that wasn't very transparent. One of the things that we want everybody to know, and we've done some checking, we can do this by doing this through the public hearing for the budget, but to make it very apparent that even department head and above are getting the exact same increase that's given across the board for COLA and for steps. And the steps are 2.5% for exempt employees and 3%, I believe, for non-exempt.
So a potential of 6 total? up for some and 5.5
Yes,
for
for
others.
the majority, it would be 5.5.
And the only question I would have with that is, when we set the budget in July, there's an unknown, right? Because that's not a given number because it's based on merit.
True,
Right.
and so in the budget, what we did is just assumed 100% of the people would do it, and so it is a little bit overstated in the
Okay.
budget. I didn't want to make that decision on who I thought should.
Okay. Thank you. Aaron, you have the next 3 items. So we'll just say it really quickly for the record. Pickleball service estimate approval, basketball court location approval, and then recreation fee discussion. We'll hit those 3 real quick.
So we submitted a requisition, I guess, for approval of this surface for the pickleball courts. This is the surface that the pickleball community really wants. I've done some research. They did a lot of research. There's a lot more expensive surfaces out there. There's a lot cheaper surfaces out there. This is kind of in the middle of the road. The thing that does concern me, and this is with really all of them, is the lifespan of it. Depending on usage, they said anywhere from 5 to 7 years. And then we may have to look at resurfacing, but it really just kind of depends on usage and wear and tear. All of the surfaces that we research kind of have the same warranty. So it just seems like a lot to me to have to do again in 5 years if we have to, but just know that's a possibility.
Is that about where the budget was for that?
Yeah, that was my question too.
I have a budget of 140,000.
So this would take,
Plus, they have also collected, and I don't remember that now by off the top of my head, but they have collected donations as well.
And is that budget, it's going to include the cost to build the new?
Correct.
The basketball courts in the budget.
It is not. So when they came with their proposal, it was approved for $140,000. We actually needed 175-ish to do everything. This will leave a little bit of excess, so I can give you some of those numbers. So with pickleball after they're surfacing, leveling, court sleeves, nets, they're going to be right around $68,700. So the difference with the $140,000 is $71,300 left. That won't quite even get a board. It'll be close, depending on how much rebar we want in it and what we want on our pad.
Well, we gotta have it right.
We might as well do it right, and that's my opinion as well.
Your top's gonna be back.
We don't want to talk back. We want to see how that playing with a smile. So that's where we're at. There will be about a little over $71,000 that can go towards basketball.
Okay, so it's part of the project, it just won't be enough to cover the whole project.
Didn't we have at one time 300,000 set aside for that project?
Back when they were doing the sports complex, Dustin might be able to speak a little bit more to it. I wasn't involved in all of that. But I do remember
When we were doing the sports complex, there was 300,000 that was supposed to be set aside for football and those types of
The
things.
only thing I remember is that one time we had 100,000 for a pickleball.
That
It
was-
moved from this part to up there.
Yeah, and that was the surprise to me, because when I heard 100,000, I was like, I thought we had more like 3, because if you do go back to the original approval of the complex and the pickleball and everything else.
Yeah, the budget was prior to this one.
So I'm just wondering how it got dialed back and maybe we didn't catch it.
But we cut it out of the sports complex because they didn't want it up there.
So I knew they didn't want it up there. We relocated, or we decided to relocate the central park. But I didn't think price, it's still gonna cost the same amount whether it's up at the Constitution or whether it's down.
But then the new budget came along and we didn't put it on,
Okay.
that's what the gap was.
So we have a new budget coming up. Is that in the new budget?
The difference is not, but it could easily be added.
Do you have a basketball court location? Do you have a cost on the basketball court? So not to jump ahead, and I apologize.
Armageddon mingle.
We do, the bids we received were 8 or 9 months ago when we started this last spring. So I'm in the process of getting updated bids to see kind of whether or not the contractor I talked to said it'll be pretty close to those original bids. And they ranged anywhere from 69,000 to 90,000, really depending on what kind of support we want in there and excavation and things like that to be done. And some of that will change too with our location. And then you can decide whether you'd like, what kind of fencing you'd like around it. Bids for that as well.
I would say we probably ought to get a fairly detailed, proposal together, fencing, whatever it may incorporate, and make sure that we have that in the next year's budget, so we're not running short, and that can move along quickly.
So one thought that I have is, with the fencing, I'm not sure, I see too many of the parks with fencing around basketball courts. And I wonder, as long as we have continuity between ground levels and everything past the hoops, I don't think it's a problem. But anyway, that's just.
If it's a longer road, maybe.
You'll need it. Yeah, if it's a long road or something, yeah. I understand that it's important. There's a reason to have it, but yeah.
I agree with you.
One other note, I don't know if this has been discussed, I know the mayor knows about it, but I was approached at work at the hospital by Jim Marshall. They have $20,000 they want to give us to do something. And I said, I know exactly where we can get that soon.
Originally, it was thought to go to the gun range, but they said they just have 20, so they know we have several projects that we're doing. And so that's a council decision as well, is where that goes. I haven't heard anything on the gun range, but we don't need to get into that right now. Just want to make sure that we're thinking ahead so that we have the money available to get the basketball courts done ASAP. Otherwise, we're going to be in the, we just don't want that prolonged.
So we need to take a location and get it on.
Okay, so now the 52,510. Any other questions on that project?
I'm just curious, what, so this is what they want, is it because it just provided the best, like, it's not top of the line stuff, is it, there's better out there?
Yeah, there's a lot better out there.
Make sure that they're not going through like.
Yeah.
We're getting the best bang for our buck.
Yeah, that's what that's.
Yeah, I believe we are for the research and bids that we've received and response back.
And longevity
to go down before they do any other construction or anything else.
So our steps are to have it leveled. There's some low spots out there, so that will be getting leveled as soon as the weather cooperates. Temperature wise, wind, water, as soon as that cooperates, the contractor will be there. It's all approved. He's ready to start tomorrow. And then the fencing guy will come in right after that, and he's ready to go. And then the court itself will go in after that.
So just really quickly, the more expensive ones, they still have 5 to 7 years. Is that what they anticipate?
Yeah. A few of them have a 10-year warranty, but you're looking at $250,000 to $350,000 for their shingles.
25 grand versus 10 grand. Will not be that.
I was looking at a park in, oh gosh, I think it's not Riverton, but Bluffdale. It's a Salt Lake County park and has 16 pickleball courts. I'm just thinking, man, that must cost a ton to maintain, so, because they're all outdoor just like these are.
Is that more than cutting grass, 10,000 a year? It's more than keeping the basketball court. But. Any other questions?
I would move we approve, going with this based on the recommendation.
Motion to approve. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion is unanimous. Basketball location.
Yeah, so There's a couple locations that we looked at, and decided.
Oh, sorry, no, no.
There's two options, Dustin, myself, and Councilman Allen looked at these. We really feel like the one in between the ambulance building and the current courts would be the best location. You already have drinking fountain right there. The terrain, the slope is really good.
You could use that light pole.
Yeah, that's the big one is the light pole. I'm sorry. I was thinking there was one other thing, and there's the light pole right there already. Our movement expert said we could just tie into pretty easily.
Is that, sorry, man, go ahead.
I had a strange thought. I know it's a little weird. And we don't want to cut out any more grass, but the parking along that road is awful. I mean, there's not a lot of parking anyway. Would you want to push that in just a little bit and create a little more parking there? Is that helpful at all?
It already goes in right there a little bit. There's parking along the pickleball court. How far down does that go?
Yeah, we could easily push that in a little bit. Those trees will need to be removed, and they are actually fairly old. And
This is very trying to get those trees moved for a long time. This is just.
The Chinese, I'd be glad to see it.
I hate to see trees go, but I went and walked under them on Sunday and they're sad. They're sad. I'm not a tree cutter downer, but they're
rough. But yeah, there is a possibility to create more parking there for sure.
Mayor,
That could be a terrible idea.
so I just, my question is, if we're gonna do it, I wanna make sure it's full size, or is this a half court?
So this will be a full size. The current courts right now are 60 by 80.
Right, which isn't full size, which is part of the reason for the change is to get a full size. Will a full size fit in there?
So, sorry, let me rephrase that. This will be a full size in comparison to what is there. It'll be like those that are there now. It won't be
So
full NBA size court, no. It'll be more like a college size court. We'll actually downsize. It'll be like 54 by 90. The ones that we have there now are 60 by 100. But we'll still be able to put in 3-point lines and things like that.
What's a full?
Well, a court is 54 by 90 feet.
So that's what this will be.
So that's what a court is. And usually they go beyond that so that there's room, you know, if guys are on a breakaway or something, they don't run into the wall. There's a little bit of room there, et cetera, for out of bounds, those kind of things. And obviously for, if there's spectators, which we're not anticipating a lot of spectators, it's more for kids to have a place to play, which is what we want, and for them to be able to get out and shoot. And ideally, my goal would be at some point to get a couple more in, maybe down at Centennial and, you know, maybe up to Constitution or somewhere. I'm just throwing ideas, but ideally, and I know we don't have budget for that now, let's get the one done. My concern is making sure it's pretty close to full size, so if kids want to play a game, it'd feel like it was, you know.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't go just, I mean, that's full size, it sounds like they're just expanded just a hair so that you've got a little wiggle room.
With the width we can, the length we can, the width right there, there's a big main line box. So the most width we can go is 54 feet, and the court's actually 50 feet, so you have 2 feet on each side extra. And if you're not doing fencing, you just tie it into the ground that's there.
I don't think we'd need fencing other than on the east side there maybe, right?
Yeah.
Just to keep the ball from going out in the street or something.
Be a fence on the.
Because there's already a fence on the pickleball, the new pickleball, so that would
And
save
that's-
us some money.
You'll still be able to, like, if you're parked there by the pickleball, you still can access the playground and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. There'll still be a really big access.
Okay.
The sidewalk through the middle, between the full pickleball court and if you put the basketball court
Right
in,
there.
there's a nice sidewalk to get you there.
And it's handicap accessible.
You're comfortable with that area, Dustin? Mostly because you want those trees going.
I want the trees going. We put in new trees, but not the Chinese.
Second that. The toilet is full of Chinese every time I open the door.
I like that spot better than the other just because I feel like it doesn't cut up the gravel pits that you have.
Right, yeah, I do too.
That
If you
farmer
go,
is gonna have to move.
I think if you go 54/90 though, you're gonna be right there and I think we're okay. You know, as close as we can get based on what room we have.
I would price it with some fencing even on both ends, just so that you're not just, I mean, it's besides one thing, because the building's gonna stop going south. The fence is gonna stop going north, but maybe the backdrops, just so that.
Well, and I would,
We can always cut back. It's easier to cut back than try to add things later, but let's just go with the kind of the gold standard, and then we can always
right.
dial back a little bit.
I think you do have room to cut back a little bit, because those cords are actually NBA regulation size. The 3-point line's NBA regulation, the court length is NBA. I don't think we need to go that big, you know, we do more high school and college regulation.
Okay.
Court.
That sounds good.
From what my observations been, folks, is you've got a bunch of kids. I mean, I've never seen that whole court in use.
Yeah.
In all the years I've been there. But it does get heavy use. So as long as you've got something nice for the kids to play on, I mean, it's a good thing.
Yes.
It just want to have two standards.
Yeah.
Well, you want it nice. What I'm getting at is, put them something nice in there, but it don't have to be some Olympic size thing, you know what I'm saying? Get some place where the kids can look like someplace nice for the kids to play.
Yeah.
I think you got the place and you don't need a motion or anything on that, right? Just direction?
I just said, might not hurt to just do a motion on that, because it is a decision, that's a.
Okay. I move we go ahead and move forward with the recommendation of putting the basketball court in that area.
Motion.
Second the location.
Second by Councilman Baird, all in favor?
All right. There you go, Dustin. Go chop the tree down.
I do have a question.
Oh, whoa.
Oh, no.
I was teasing, I promise.
I know. So one of those, so we were talking about two standards. Would it be possible to put two more in just in case there is a lot of use and they could each have like just two more in the middle on each side? No. I'm just wondering because
That's definitely a
or
possibility.
maybe as a
I
possibility
think
in
if
the
you do
future.
that, you might wanna fence it that side too.
I like the idea.
I would get the bids on it.
Okay, yeah, I like that idea better if we do go that route.
You can always do removable if you have like a 3-point content, or 3-point, 3
I was there on Sunday, just kind of
That's good.
scoping things out, and there were kids there with a basketball, and we just kind of said, there's a spot, up at Constitution, they're like, it's in the sun, like evening time, it's like shooting the sun, so that's, in our mind, that's something they can use, but at that time of night, when the kids are out, it wasn't really, so there might be an option to kind of look at something.
But she's saying that she wants cover on that.
I don't need to. No, just when I was trying to give them other options of where they could go, that time of day, that one is. It's fine, so we'll get them something going.
Okay, next item,
Thanks, Aaron.
recreation fee discussion.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you want me to lead out on this or before Councilman Barrett or Councilman Allen. There's been some discussion of implementing resident and non-resident fees at some of our facilities, such as the golf course, the swimming pool, and then also like on our fee schedule when it comes to sports, possibly like pavilion and field rentals. Just wanted to get council's thought on having non-resident fees and resident fees.
How do you enforce that?
Yeah, that's my question.
And then I have a brother that lives outside of the city limits, but he has rental homes and a business in the city limits. So, and then the Duncans that were here, their name's on the board for donating big to the pool. Do you look at that?
Well, those are some good points. One thing that, and I haven't been in on the discussion, but I did a lot of research prior to this, and one thing that we realized is we do have, a lot of our facilities are being utilized, it's about 60-40. Isn't it 60 outside and 40 in?
That's what I.
is basically what we came up with. We do have the Parks and Rec Committee where we allow people to come and participate in decisions we make with our recreation, which I think is good. But one of the things that we were looking at, and that's why we had the full discussion as well, is the school utilizing the pool. They utilize, the pool about 12% out of the year. And that encompasses the whole county, but we're subsidizing the pool for all of those people that come and utilize it, the youth. We're putting that burden on the backs of 7,200 residents. And so there's really nothing to distinguish whether you're inside Roosevelt or outside Roosevelt as far as fees goes, except for the property taxes that residents go to pay for recreation for a lot of people. So what we found out is we're paying for recreation for about 16,000 people, and we're putting that burden on about 7,200 people. So those are just facts. That's just research. Those are just facts. That's what we. And so our recreation budget, if you look at it, obviously the police is the number one. The most expensive budget that we have. Next is recreation, starting with the golf course and the pool, and then it trickles on down. But recreation is a major thing that we have to pay for as residents. So I'm just throwing that out there just to give a little context.
Is there something other cities do? Because my question was, Councilman Goodrich said at the beginning, how do you collect it or enforce that? And I'm not opposed to it. I kind of agree with the mayor in terms of that aspect, but I just don't know how you enforce it.
Real quick, if I may, we do that for the cemetery right now, for non-resident and resident. And we do honor if they own property in Roosevelt City as being a resident. And we track that by address and place of domicile where they reside.
And buying a plot in a cemetery is a different process than someone walking up to the desk at the pool and then.
It's easier to identify. I guess what you're saying is because when you're making a purchase, you're sitting down with the people, you're taking 20, 30,
But if you've got 30 kids trying to get into the pool and we have to verify if you're buying a city pass or not, is that worth our time?
The other thought we had was to raise the rates and then keep the rates the same for residents, and they would have a resident card or something, they just show their card.
Could there be a thing like a once a year thing, you bring your taxes in when you get your tax notice, and that's when you buy your year pass or something? I don't know. I just think it's gonna be hard on a daily basis to be like, because your driver's license, if you're my brother, it shows you live in Roosevelt City. I mean, his address says Roosevelt City, so how do you do that on a day-to-day basis?
Sorry, I kind of like what the mayor said. If we raise rates, but if someone brought in their ID or whatever to show they're a resident, then you give them the discount. But the rate, if they don't have their ID, they pay the higher. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of ways to enforce it. I'm not saying that's a solution. I'm just trying to think of a way to enforce it is the problem.
I think they're up. Like, I agree, this is a problem. I don't know if we should be super stringent on enforcing this myself, but another way of doing it would be to just issue recreation passes to resident families or something that basically just says they're residents and they can have resident prices on recreational stuff. So, and I don't know how tough that would be. I'd love it if we could do something like that, but that is kind of a burden on the community to come and get one. So,
well, or you bail it out to them, but then again, it's a burden. Either way, there's a cost and a burden. I'd just be curious what other cities do. I think if we did a little research.
It is not convenient, but when I take my kids to the pool in St. George, you have to show a bill to say you're a resident. But
do they redo? So do they?
They have a flat rate for residents. They charge you more for non-residents, and that's kind of the direction I would think we need to go. Also.
The girls at the city pool know that you can bring in a Roosevelt City bill and they have to look that it's not the county Do you know what I mean? Like they get a city bill.
Or it's actually their bill, it's not their friend's bill that.
Well, but like if you are getting Roosevelt water, but you're living in the Cove, you're still getting a bill from the city, right? Or no?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
so
one of them has-
Yeah, so they're paying more for their water, but they still have a bill that
Usually
have,
their bills show less though, if they don't have a mandatory trash service, so.
right, but are we, do you know what I mean? It's kind of hairy.
Yeah, there would be some things to work out for sure if you decide to go that direction. Calling other cities, do you have different pool rates? I was only able to find 2 golf courses that had different rates. So it does happen, but it's not common.
One thought might be that you don't get the card or whatever that says you're a resident at the pool. You go in the pool, says we have rates for, if you want to get a resident card that shows, then you go and talk to this person at the city building and they will work that out with you or something like that. Take it away from the pool to have to make that decision.
and my thought with the pool in particular, I mean, it's a gem and an important part of our city. I think I would love to see the pool rates come down for citizens, leave them the same for non-citizens. So it's not like we'd be charging any more, but we could charge substantially less to citizens. I don't know how much that would cost us. Like if we'd have to increase our budget for the pool by 10 or 15,000, but I think it's worth it just because I don't know. We use the baseball fields, we use other resources of the city for free, a lot of times. But the pool is one thing that residents currently are paying a lot of money to do. I mean, for my family to buy a 10 punch pass, it's about $100, and we have 10 people in our family. It'd be a little bit less because we have some kids, and those rates are a little different. But that's expensive to go. It's expensive to go to the pool for my family. Maybe it's more like $50. But anyway, yeah, I'd love to see a way for residents to get in the pool a little less money, and we're paying for it as residents, and it's, we maintain the fields of the parks, we maintain all these other things too that we're subsidizing, and why not subsidize the pool a little bit more?
No. The question I have is, what is the goal? What is the objective? Is it to increase revenue? Is it to give a discount to our residents? I guess what's the ultimate goal? In my mind, yeah, what's the objective? Because that doesn't sound like getting more revenue. That sounds like giving discounts to residents.
Yeah.
So what is the objective overall?
A little of both. I mean, honestly, try to even the playing field, and
Yeah.
we need to increase revenue also.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. So if it's increasing revenue because we are subsidizing so heavily a lot of the recreation in our area, and I can see that. But one of the thoughts that I had too is looking at, what we pay as taxpayers through our property taxes and things like that. What amount of that goes to recreation? I mean, that's something you can put a number to and kind of get a percentage of how much more we're paying for those facilities, and then just, that's a fair percentage, right? That's not arbitrary. It's not just thrown out there. It's, hey, our residents, the amount of money our property tax dollars go to pay for recreation is X. And so if you're non-resident and you're not paying property tax in Roosevelt City, but you're still using those facilities, this is a percentage above and beyond what the fees would be. Does that make sense? So it's not, when we try to do that, it's not something that they could come and like, what are, it's easily explainable. And it's easily, I mean, Don's a math guy, he can figure that out in no time.
Another thought would be, would this then be something other people could come and say, you do this for the pool, but what about for golf? And what about for baseball?
It can have to be across the board.
Well, if we do anything, we have to open up the fee schedule, have a public hearing, all that, right?
Yeah.
So I think, I like the discussion, I agree, I think that we definitely need to look at it, and I'm actually thinking of how to implement in a way that makes sense, especially for, you know, having people at the pool or others, is maybe we raise the rate, but if they have, whether it's a card, whether they bring an ID or something to show they're a resident, then we give them the discount, and if they don't have it, then they pay the, whatever the price is. To me, that's, and just, again, I'm just talking out loud, thinking through it, and I'm sure I haven't thought of everything. That just seems the easiest way to kind of manage it. Because people are more apt to, oh, wait, I live in Roosevelt, they're gonna provide that to us, whether they have to come to the city and get a card. Maybe the first time they come, you tell them that's the plan, please go get a card, otherwise it's this much, you know, kind of thing. But at least we can have that conversation maybe.
Yeah, I'm in favor of reducing price for residents all across the board.
Right.
Is it, St. George, you show a bill?
Yeah.
And you get the reduced rate, otherwise you pay the higher rate? Okay, so it's like an incentive, and if you don't worry about it, you're like, yeah, I don't really care to bring my bill, I'm just gonna pay a higher rate.
Yeah. And I think people would do that more out because they want to save the money.
It's not like you're paying $20 more, it's like $1.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So most people are just like, I don't care, I'll just pay that. Definitely good discussion. I think it's something that we agree probably to pursue. I mean, there's not anything to vote on necessarily, but
Just discussion at this point.
yeah. What about the golf, really quickly, what about the golf course? Same thing, you're thinking?
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, we probably have to do it across the board.
I might add something, there's not a golf course in the nation, it's not subsidized. Until you get into the country clubs and they got some ugly membership fees. Most of your city golf courses are all subsidized, you're not gonna find that stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't see why anybody would have a problem with it anywhere.
Thoughts? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Let's move to Ryan, and then for planning principal forgiveness agreement.
Yeah, this will be the easiest decision of the night. So every water system has to do a lead service line inventory of their system, and this is a requirement now, and it needs to be done by October of 2024. So what we did, what Jones and Mill helped us on, is apply for a grant to help get boots on the ground and figure out how many lines we have out there that are lead lines. And so the Division of Drinking Water Board authorized a planning loan of $100,000 with 100% principal forgiveness to Roosevelt. So basically, we got $100 grand. If you want it, make a motion now. If not, we can talk about it for another.
Going once.
Just check all the lines or just certain areas to?
It's a certain, well, we're supposed to check all the lines, but we've actually got it down to a certain years.
Okay.
Where they installed all.
Right, because after a certain time, that was not a problem.
They soldered the copper lines with lead and stuff, so.
Okay. And is 100,000, I mean, obviously we're gonna get it, but do you think that'll be enough to cover?
I hope so. I think it will.
Okay.
Yes, we should be good there. And it's also not only the service line from the meter to the main, but also the main into the home.
Okay.
And that's what gets tricky. We're gonna have to probably do some surveys and boots on the ground and actually knock on doors. And if we don't know the line, we may have to do some potholing too, so.
Okay.
Am I missing anything, Jeff?
Move we accept the loan with the principal.
Yeah, you love those. We love those.
Not the deal.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Councilman Weiss, second by Councilman Ludenbach. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We're gonna jump a little bit here. Let's do XCL first, because I know, is he here with us tonight? Online? Scott? Okay. Scott, we'll move to you, and then we'll have the Cedar View easement discussion. The Normal Acres, we'll get to these guys that have been patiently waiting, so. That's the old map.
This,
That's the new map.
the other over here.
Would you be able to share your screen so I can see what you're all looking at?
Yep, one second.
They had you up there, Scott, for a minute. Just kidding. Can you see it now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. Grant, go ahead.
Okay, so we've been in on this a couple of times. I think the stage we're at right now is just needing to finalize a location. We can go into the written agreement, to whatever extent you guys want to. Where we kind of left off with that though, is that for the compensation, the original proposal had that either XCL would pay the city kind of a one-time fee to use the property, or there was an alternative that they could pay by the amount of water that was injected. And then after a couple of meetings on that, XCL offered to just pay both. And it's the first time that I've seen that offer. Where we left off, I think that everybody was in agreement on for approving the written agreement. The one thing that was left was to decide a location. So that's what we really need to talk about, unless you guys want to go back or have any questions on the written agreement, which I'm happy to go over again.
And we're not, that wasn't an approved agreement yet either, it was just more or less.
We had gone over it and talked about the terms, but we do need a motion to formally approve it. The reason that we hadn't already done that was because the location hadn't been determined. And the plan is that we'll attach a map with just the final decision on the location as an exhibit to the written agreement.
If I just real quick, this map is an older map. I had sent out the third option that, the third option is directly south of the original option one, right up against the Roosevelt City property line. If you go back to the other map that was displayed, yeah, so, just right along that southern, property line would be our third option, and probably our most preferred option. And in one of our meetings, we talked about option number 2 being a little bit of a concern with, you know, if we cut into that hillside and, you know, the hay fields and everything that they're sloughing off. And so, that option number 3 that would be right against the southern property line. In our last discussion, we felt like that was on the back side of those hills and far enough away from the shooting ranges that it would suffice. And I'd be more than happy to survey both routes to show you cuts and fills. But ultimately, we're trying to get approval so we can get out there, approval on the agreement and approval on the site that we get out there and get surveys on.
I think the further south we go, the better.
Yeah.
Personally, so I like the third option that pushes it to the south anyway. So,
Not any concerns with, I guess that those red lines are transmission power line going in.
That is correct. That's Transwest power.
and that's, well, and that's up to XCL to negotiate with them as far as easements and things like that.
We have a global coordination agreement.
And that's encumbered ground anyway, so the more the merrier right there. We can't, what I'm getting at is it's not very useful to us as far as where it's gonna be encumbered. I like the fact that it is further south. That would be my preference. I don't even think, unless the council thinks or feels otherwise, I don't think we would need to do 2 surveys, just one survey on the further south option. How does the council feel?
I'm good with that.
Yeah, me too, I agree.
And then
One thing I would just add to that, so you're aware, the furthest south option
causes us to have to drill almost a half mile directionally to get, and in these short distances, it is significantly, more for us than if we went to that kind of a spot directly in between the two, but still on Roosevelt City's property. So that's one challenge that we've got to face, but we are willing to do that directionally if ultimately that's what Roosevelt City decides.
Sounds good. Do we have the terms of the agreement briefly? Does anybody need rebriefed on that? And we felt that that was fair compensation, obviously.
Yeah, I think it's very generous. And like I said earlier, this is the first agreement that I've worked on where they were offering both forms of compensation. And the two forms are both common, but usually you're choosing one or the other. They've offered to pay both.
Well,
This is the first agreement that XCL has done in that respect as well. We typically do either just a one-time lease fee or a per barrel lease. But we've offered to do both, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
And we haven't mentioned it in this meeting, but they also did quite a bit of work on the road out there. Or so it was not, this agreement wasn't contingent on that, but they did say they paid.
Sure. No, I think.
Even just so everybody knows, I missed this last time, but it cost us $356,000 to improve that road.
Yeah, I think they've been great. I think that southern option is the best option, and I don't see any reason why not to move forward. Would entertain a motion unless there's questions.
I would move we approve the agreement and the third option for the route.
Okay, got a motion. Second by Councilman Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thanks, Grant.
One more, we go back to the map, right? There's probably one more thing that needs to be brought up. That red line that you see.
Oh, yeah, the pipeline.
That is the pipeline that would go over to where our injection pumps would be. That line was just kind of putting it in a rough spot. I talked to Kirby, and Kirby would prefer that line follow the road.
Yeah.
As it goes out. So, that won't be the exact position of the pipeline leading the path. You will have to cross the field on the north side of the Transwest power line, cross that pivot right there. But, everything else he's asked us to, kind of be amenable to moving it and putting it in place. That's super Roosevelt City, so that won't be the exact spot that we put the pipeline, but it gives you a general idea for the direction we're headed.
Perfect. Thanks for pointing that out. And one of the concerns was if we ever expanded those ponds to the east, that pipeline was there, it was quite a big problem. So appreciate you pointing that out, Scott, and appreciate you willing to accommodate as well.
We appreciate the opportunity to work with Roosevelt City for sure.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, that one's passed, and we can move forward.
We need to get with on the signed agreement so we can move forward with further stuff.
We can.
The thing that might take a little bit of time, guys, we do need to get a map to attach as the exhibit. Were you the one that prepared, not the map we were looking at tonight, but the one that had that third option on it?
If I can, yeah, and I send that over, but if I can just get verbal permission to get the surveys done, we will put that in as the actual exhibit.
Yeah. And I think you can
just follow up with Josh. He'll coordinate with JR to get his signature. And then if you can just give us an updated map.
With the pipeline and option 3.
Yeah.
Okay. I can do that.
Okay.
Thanks, Scott.
Excellent. All right, let's move. Thanks. Appreciate you. Seawview easement request. We didn't get any paperwork. Did you have the information from your,
It was sent to you, but I can pull mine up on the phone for you.
well, I didn't check my email. That's probably
He
what.
sent it last Thursday, he said to you.
Excellent.
I have my email up, so that can forward it to me.
Yes, I'll forward it. Here, if you'll take that, I'll go ahead and get this on to her. Been a little busy. We were talking about that today and like, I haven't seen anything. So. That came from,
See if you're well Special Services District. You
might have to bring that to me because I don't see it on Thursday. Yeah, if you want to just forward it to Sunshine.
S. Bellon, SBELLON at Roosevelt City.
Yeah.
It's Bellon at RooseveltCity.com.
SBELLON at RooseveltCity.com.
Yeah, it didn't come through for whatever reason. While we're looking that up, or looking for that, that's basically the last two Charmel Acre offer. So this is for an easement as well, and that's probably in that same email, isn't it?
Well, is it just an email or should there be an attachment?
There's supposed to be an attachment.
The attachment did not come through. I apologize. I can show the email if you'd like, but the attachment was not included in that.
Just take it up to, should I just take it up to you?
That might work. Yeah, I can just read it off. That'll work.
Sunshine still need a copy of that for record if we can make sure she gets it.
Okay, so just bring the public up to speed. We've been working with Cedar Fremont well. We do have a connection. They have an 8-inch line that traverses from 121 over into North Crescent. And we historically have used that water. There was supposed to be an agreement. There never was an agreement, but that valve was turned on. We've been using water for quite some time. What this does is establishes a rate and a payment of water already used. And then it also, there's a right of way that they need west of town in the Cedar View, well, not quite Cedar View area.
By your park you're putting in.
Yeah, Teddy's Playground. And so they are asking for an easement there as well. So we're discussing the rate that will be charged moving on, how much we're going to pay in arrears for a wheeling fee, and then the easement, the cost or price that we would accept for the easement. And then the other thing that is mentioned in this email is the meter. So I don't think there is an attachment on this anyway.
Well, I can just pull up the email then.
But the meter, yeah, if you'll bring that up, meter reading to be done at the bottom by well.
By our water district.
Yeah, Cedar Fremont well, I think in central Utah. On the top, be done by Roosevelt City.
You guys just could see my whole inbox. There you go.
So this is just a preliminary. One of the questions that I did have, just reading that number, is what's the price per 1,000 on the 92? So 92,000 for the house living.
That was $1.
$1.
Yeah, which was verbally agreed on with the contracts that were drawn up.
By the previous city manager.
Previous, yeah, none of you are responsible for any of that.
Okay. No, just previous.
I don't know how many previous.
So, any thoughts from the council? I know this is the first time you've seen this. The only question the only question I would have immediately is, would we pay $1 for payment in arrears when we're going to 50 cents, or would we want to stay at 50 cents? And then the other question is 50 cents fair number that the council feels is fair? We haven't really been able to do a lot of work on this since your meeting. But I know that City of Beaumont Well is wanting to get an agreement with that easement as soon as possible, because they do have a pipeline that they want to move through there fairly quickly if possible. So when are you looking to start that pipeline or that project?
It may be pushed till the spring. We'd like to get it out for bid as soon as we could though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just, to get it out for bid.
Gotcha. So we haven't really run any numbers, but one of the things I will say is I do feel like the 50 cents is much more fair than what was proposed before. I feel like that was a good faith offer. I don't know about the $3,000. We'd have to look at, just compare it with what we've done with easements in the past, but I don't think that that's completely out of line. Again, my only concern would be with the 92,000 being priced higher than what the moving forward rate would be. The meter reading, I don't think is a big issue, because that either what I would grant when we had agreements with other water companies, we have an agreement with Johnson Water, for example, where they can come and look at the meter, with 12 hours notice, or a certain amount of notice, and vice versa. So if it's written that you read the bottom meter, we read the top, or vice versa, then we would just want a provision where either one could go and verify meter reading with any notice. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
That's something that we already have in a contract.
Yeah.
So any questions or any thoughts from the council?
I know we've been working on this kind of off and on for a while, because we got that grant to bypass the one well, right, that we get dinged on, and we're trying to, the tank, sorry, not the well, the tank, sorry.
That's a different project too. So there's 3 moving pieces with this.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to understand, because I know we talked before, there's some of their water runs through our lines too. Is that true or no?
There's 2 spots where that happens, where our water comes into their system and then exits their system. And so we meter it coming in, and then we meter it going out, and then we true up and see what the difference is. And there's 2 spots that happens in North Crescent and then Charmel Acres.
In North Crescent, isn't that where we're having issues with fire flow and stuff?
Yeah, North Crescent's the area that we've shut the valve, and there's been people that have wanted to build up there and things, and we just haven't let them because of.
And this doesn't do anything for that per se, right?
It would. Yeah, it would to a degree. I don't think it still meets fire flows based on what I've seen, but it'd get us closer.
Okay.
And the thing is it's where it's outside of the city, it's still a county issue. It's a county problem.
Right.
They're the ones that make the decision whether or not to allow more building as far as based on fire flows and things. It's just us willing to give connections, knowing that, it's
right.
It's not an area that we really want to invest a lot of money in, because it is outside of city limits. But we do have some alternatives. So we have had some engineers draw up some alternative routes to come in and address both sides, not only Cedar Tree Mount Well, but the Charmel Acres. And so those are options as well. This is just, I feel like if we can do something that makes sense for both companies, then then it's a win-win. And if we can make it a win-win, then it would be great. So,
My biggest concern, like you said, Mayor, is the 92,000 and just because, I don't know if we even have that in the budget or, where we'd come up with that necessarily. I'm not saying we couldn't, I'm just saying that there would be, that's a lot to.
well, I feel like we've got to correct the problem, right? My feeling is
Right.
it would be at the price that we would negotiate. And I know they negotiated a different price prior to, but I would say whatever the negotiated price is, that would apply to whatever was in arrears, which would basically split that in half at 46,000. No. Yes.
So if we quantified how much water we've done in the past, like that cleaning fee is supposed to cover?
92 million gallons.
Well, it's
For 92 million gallons.
per thousand, so it's $1 a thousand, so you can see it's about.
So they want more money for the past. I heard you say that, and it wasn't.
And I heard that in a meeting, and I wasn't sure how much water had run.
Yeah, actually on the meter, we had our water manager go take a picture. It was like about 94 million gallons. It went up from what
Yeah.
that was, yeah.
Oh.
It was more run through the meter than what that 92,
Okay.
yeah.
Either, whatever it is, we just need to make sure that one, it's accounted for, and two, that whatever we pay, we feel comfortable with. Ultimately, it's council's decision.
So our residents have been using that water, we've been collecting water payments from those customers for water that they use that was.
Well, it's our water, so it's a tricky situation. It's our water, but it goes through about 3 miles of 8-inch line of Cedar Piedmont wells. And so what we're paying for is to transfer that water from this point to this point.
Right.
So it's our water that's coming through. It's just the infrastructure that's being utilized to get it from here to there.
It's our water, we're just really borrowing some infrastructure.
This is about 3 miles. I think, Jeff, right? So about 3 miles of 8-inch line. And to give a comparison, and this is something that we brought up in our meeting as well, we charge $1 for an exchange rate, or it could be considered a willing fee, because we exchange. I don't think you're bringing any from Starvation yet, right?
Oh, yeah, no.
And the line that they're going to build through Teddy's Playground is to get their water from Starvation or from, well, Victory Water, basically up to their system. But for now, they haven't been able to do that. And so they have water in the Victory system that we're utilizing basically, and then we're trading. So we're allowing them to use our water out of Hayden wells. And so the $1 is basically for the impact that we have from Hayden getting it to their point of diversion, which is about 9 miles of 24-inch line.
Horse trading.
Horse trading. So we're just trying to figure out a fair rate. We want to make sure that each party feels fair and treated fairly. And that's why, we want to throw some of those things out there as far as what's been done in the past, what we're proposing or what's being proposed, so we can put that into perspective.
Is the 92 million gallons a year, or is it in the past 5 years, or?
Like that's 7 years before it was shut off. So 7 years.
So it's not a lot of water that flows through there. It does help, well, in my mind, it does help the residuals. It does, and it would help us in that area. So there is some things there. Residuals being chlorine and things like that.
So how much a year ultimately are you looking at in the future? 50 cents a gallon at 10 million gallons a year, basically, or 12 million gallons a year?
Yeah. 5-6 grand.
It saves us from putting in infrastructure, which would cost us millions, right?
Well, so yes and no. If we purchase yes to that point. If we purchase there is a an engineered drawing, I guess, a plan to take the water over to that point. And if you look at it in comparison to what we would be buying from Charmin Acres, it's not a heck of a lot more to get clear over the Crescent Point. And so that's the question as well. If we run our own line across, it'll pretty much accomplish the same thing that we're trying to do here, without interfering with each other in each other's systems. But that's something that, and I wish Sawyer was here, but he's not. So he has some of that information.
And so you have their offer right here. My question is still the trade still on the table, or are we just talking just this right now?
Trade as far as Crescent trading and things like that?
Well, the Charmel Acres, like purchasing that?
Yes, that's still on the table.
Still on the table?
Yeah. In fact, that's just a separate.
Yeah, we wanted to keep it all separate.
Yeah, but it's still on the table.
And would we would, charge him likewise, basically?
No, what we would be doing is purchasing the line from Charlotte Acres, and so we would pay them whatever that infrastructure would be. So it's a 12-inch line, basically 3,000 west and 3,500 north,
Yeah,
something like that.
2,500 north, yeah. No, it's about 35.
Yeah. So there, and then that line, they dead ended it right by my house, which is right behind the house, which is, I don't know, it's about a mile of line, right?
On the top part, yeah, a little over.
Yeah. So we'd be purchasing that mile of line, and then we would inherit that area, if I understand.
Yeah, all of the infrastructure from that vault, everything that's from that vault there.
And then whatever connections, so that area would become our area. Yeah. There's not a lot of connections. What is it, 12 connections?
Oh, there's more than that.
Is there?
19 plus some standbys that pay a monthly standby fee.
25.
$25.
Okay. So that's a separate project. That's one that we probably want to look at as well. But I know, unfortunately, we didn't get the information to the council, but this is something that we can talk about for the next 2 weeks and put some numbers to, and then have a decision by the next council meeting. But what is that meeting in June? Okay. So we can have a much better answer for you June 4th. I didn't realize Sawyer was not going to be here either.
I didn't either. He had got a hold of me while I was getting ready to come down here. I hurried forward to him.
Cool.
Do you want me to start a draft or wait and talk to you before?
That was the other thing, is we were going to do that was part of the negotiation that's not in here, that we would do the draft. An attorney that would look at it, but I think maybe what we can do, unless there's strong feelings one way or the other. I mean, is there any strong feelings on which direction to go?
I think we will reach an agreement. I don't know, like, as far as the prices go, we might change a little bit on that.
Right, I
We might
agree.
counter an offer there in the 92,000 for wheeling, but at least that's my thought. But I think either way we'll want to grab.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I agree.
So, okay.
Sunshine, can you send me a copy of that? That email?
Yes.
Okay, well, we don't need to make a decision on that one then, and then we have, we're gonna scratch the North Crescent water discussion for now. And then, resolution grant, we're gonna forego that one as well.
The Charmel Acres, that was part of this previous discussion.
Oh, yeah, what about the Charmel Acres? That's something that, do we wanna wait until we have the others, or is that something we can talk about? I guess the thing is we really haven't done our own evaluation on that property to see what the value is. What is it, about an acre that you've decided? Is that right, Jeff? that it impacts or?
For the easement?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just under an acre.
Just under an acre. So I think that's definitely something, Grant, that we can, because those would be two different agreements anyway. If we need an agreement, on the Charmel Acres, I say we could move forward on that one, because I don't
know, we really need an agreement, I think it's an
Easement, yeah.
Yeah,
we're talking about the cross cities playground.
Yeah.
I think it's these.
And I guess we should treat that one. Is there any concerns from the council that, it traverses or is adjacent to a road that's already there, an existing road?
Cutting through the
Do
middle.
you want to bring up the map real quick? We better look at that one a little bit.
Will this map work, or what do you want?
Can you go to just Google Earth?
Google Earth?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, Ryan?
So on the agenda, the first thing was the Cedar View easement. Your Charmel Acres is Charmel Acres offer.
Oh. Charmel Acres offer isn't even on the,
So
or I mean, isn't anything that we're discussing tonight, I guess.
that's why I was just clarifying.
Good point. You gotta keep me straight, man, I'm telling you. I'm gonna lose my mind. So the Cedar View, that shouldn't have said Charmel, that should have said North Crescent. Yeah. Well, North Crescent isn't. Yeah. We'll talk about the North Crescent water discussion when we decide, because that's contingent on basically coming up with an agreement there, so.
Yes.
And finalize an agreement.
So the notes I've taken thus far don't apply to Charmel Acres, these are consideration. Should those?
Yeah, that should be North Crescent. And Sawyer might have put that Charmel on, I don't know what he was thinking there, but where he's not here. That was just something, because we don't even have the agreement, I don't know if he's planning on proposing that or not. So.
Ryan, you look puzzled.
Oh no, their offer it's mixed in there where you've got 3,000 for the easement, but also we're talking about North Crescent, so it kind of has a little both. That's why JR and I are scratching our head.
Okay, I just saw your puzzled look.
Yeah. So right now, let's just focus on the Cedar View, because their proposal does have all of those, but let's just focus on the Cedar View easement real quick so that the council can see where it's at, so that they can,
So that.
I would just like to know if there's any concerns or questions with the easement right now before we, move forward with grant proposing. We can put the price in at any point in time, but at least, well, maybe there's not an agreement, it's just the easement. But it's still gonna have to have an agreed upon price, so I don't know.
Where should I be showing for this?
Do you know where Teddy Playground is?
Yes.
Let Ryan run that thing, he knows.
No pressure now, huh? We're going too far.
You're close, it's at the Bluebell turnoff, right?
Yeah.
So you live too far.
There's the crazy corner. I'm getting closer.
Right there, that road. Your mouse just crossed it. To the right there, Ryan, right there is the road. And that's where they want the pipeline, is to go along that road.
That goes north and south.
Yep. Mhm. Correct? Yeah. I think they put the parking lot on the east side, didn't they?
Yeah. Are you gonna be on the west side?
Yes.
Okay, because there's fiber on the east side anyway that you want to avoid.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd be on the west side of the road and then just cut across that. I mean, Cody, and who else has been involved with that project? You're about the only one, aren't you?
Yeah, and I don't think there's really anything that's happened yet, so.
Okay.
So you're saying it follows that road? Does it go, how far north does it go? Does it turn over like where the road turns, or does it keep going, or?
Our property line ends about right there. It just, go ahead, Brent.
Yeah, we're gonna go work our way back up through there to the north.
Yeah, so it would exit your property right here, but it would
Okay.
keep going, following the road
Alright.
and make its up width.
Okay.
Cool. Any other questions from council on where it would be?
And you said the parking and the fiber's on the east side, so it doesn't affect anything? There's nothing else there?
I'm curious, is that road kind of cut through our property or is it more on the edge of our property?
Cuts through the middle.
Cuts right through the middle.
Not through the middle, well, through the, you can see the property line to the west right there.
Okay. I wonder if you should put it on the west side of the road.
That is where we're
You mean along the property line?
Just along that road on the west side of the west part, which maybe you're just within.
Yeah, that's the proposal.
And that's about a mile, 3/4?
Not even, it's just a little over a quarter.
Quarters all? Yeah, I can't.
About what, 1,300 feet?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
600 meters, 1,800 feet.
About a third. Roughly a third of a mile is all.
Yeah, it's not very far.
Yeah, come off the highway there a couple hundred feet before it hits your property line.
And how wide is the proposed easement?
30 feet.
30 feet.
50 under construction.
Yeah, 30 feet wide, permanent with 50 more feet, or 20 more feet for construction.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, I get to started anyway.
Forgive my ignorance, what's the depth it has to be at?
5 feet.
5 feet? Okay. I just didn't know, I never thought about it.
So it doesn't freeze.
No, I knew it had to be a certain depth for frost, I just didn't know.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, I just don't think we can make a decision tonight anyway, we need a little more information and
Yeah.
Grant to drop something to get started.
I was thinking Sawyer was gonna be here. But we'll catch him on the next one.
2 weeks.
Yes, sir. So, okay. Well, is there any reason to go into closed session tonight? There is.
Mayor, I'd like to move, we approve the expenditures and financials.
We have a motion to approve those. Do we have a second? Second by Councilman White, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Capital projects update, did you need any time, Ryan? Capital project,
I'll be quick. Just have a few dates I feel like you guys should be aware of. The Innovation Hub's going great. We are on schedule to be done by June 30th, which is our deadline for that grant. So I did reach out to them. As far as the furnishing on the inside and the details, they're giving us 2 or 3 months to work that out. Beyond that, so everything's looking good. We've got it, the sheetrock's up, it's mudded, and it's almost being painted. So if you're driving by, swing in there, look at it, looks totally different from what it was before.
You're right, it's amazing how fast they put that sheetrock up. Because I went in when it was on the floor, just piled up, and all of a sudden it's amazing.
Opened it up too, haven't it?
Yeah.
Cleaned up, so. The date on the sports complex, an important date, we'll be laying sod on June 17th. So if anybody's wondering, ask you've got an answer there. We're hoping, right, Chloe? A few issues we're having there that you probably should be aware of. We are trying to figure it out on our end, but I know we're gonna be in here explaining it to you down the road. There has been some change orders come up that we was not aware of. That was stuff that was done without us knowing about it. So, and a few surprises there. So we're kind of working that out with the engineers and getting more details. So it's kind of vague on how we got them. And also to update you, the concrete in the middle, there was 2 pours that was done, probably in the worst windy days of the whole spring, that did not pass. It's cracking. So we're currently working with the contractor to have him tear them out and redo that. So if it needs to come to this level, we'll get there. Any questions on that? Sorry, I'm kind of going through it fast, so. The Nature Park grand opening is still set for June 20th. It will be in the evening at 5 o'clock. And so we are planning ribbon cutting and everything, so if you can just mark that on your calendars. Obviously, we want the councilman to be there, the councilwoman to be there and represent the city on that event. And the last date I have is the pedestrian crossing, goes off the hill, the tunnel. We're in the planning stages right now, and it will not go out to bid till winter, or this fall or winter. And construction won't be until spring of 25. So anyway, just so you're aware of that. And then I want to do one last shout out to Moon Lake when they had their service day. They helped Dustin quite a bit, but they also helped us down there clearing that path out. So if you actually go up the hill and look to your left, there's actually a trail now that'll hook up to the park. So they did a great job cleaning that out. And gun range, we were still doing the survey. Yeah, the EA, environmental assessment on it. How long does that take, Joe?
A long time.
Do you think we're gonna get that money?
I do.
Okay.
Who's doing the EA in that?
Yeah, it'll be in 28.
So we're coordinating some of it, so we're coordinating a lot of it, yeah.
Is there an agency that's gonna be signing off on it?
Yes, and I can't remember the name of it.
Okay.
Whoever the DNR gets their money from. Can't remember, it's like, I can't even tell you. But there's a federal agency that's over it, that's helping coordinate all of their stuff, and then we'll have to do full surveys and other stuff along with it.
Thanks.
Anyway, that's kind of real fast, real quick. Any questions, concerns?
Just comment, could you just briefly report on the nature park and the fire and the place up at Kings Peak and just how that went?
Yeah, we can do that.
I know we've talked, but
baby, but I guess I can.
You can have sunshine do it, I don't care.
Busy taking notes. So we did the first graders and the third graders from a couple schools classes, and what we did different this year is in the parking lot of the nature park, we kind of set up the fire trucks, the police, and then we had all of our equipment, the dump truck, the mini X and stuff, and so the kids left the school on top, came down the trail system, and Sunshine kind of gave them a tour of what was going on there, project. And then they came in the parking lot and just kind of took turns getting a tour through all the stuff, and they got to play with the trucks and see what we do. So it was kind of a good event. They got excited. They were screaming. I think it's because it's kids, right? They were outdoors.
Yeah.
We did feed them sugar. Those teachers deserve it. But it was good. So hopefully we got good feedback. I don't know, maybe it might open the door for future events.
Good.
Maybe that'll be an annual thing.
Yeah. It seemed a little more organized than when we have them here. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because we wasn't closed in on the walls and have 100 kids in here at once. I don't know, but it is good for them to see the council chambers and here too as well. So.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any committee reports?
I have something, I'm not sure if it's report. So for city beautification, we would like to put up like recognitions in people's yards.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm wondering, I asked Josh about this and he says there's some discretionary funds that council has. And I've got a bid for two, it's about $250 to buy some yard signs. Is that something?
I think that's something that, doesn't necessarily need to be.
Talked about here, but.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say voted on because it's such a low amount, but I think a consensus of the council to allow city manager, see, you have a $10,000 expenditure. Is that something that?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Tell him to take it out of his fund. He has a discretionary fund. No, I'm just kidding. That's good, good thought. Any other items? Okay, do we really need to go into closed session? Can I leave? You might have to, how long will it take? Because if it'll take very long, I'll have somebody else elected mayor pro tem. Okay.
Okay. Mayor, I move we go into closed session for purposes listed in Utah Code 52-4-205.
That's property acquisition. And then we have a second for that. By Ian White. I need a roll call vote.
Yes.
Aye.
Yeah. Five ayes.
So they're distant cousins. I couldn't remember.
Okay, we're now back in open session. I think we do need a motion on a property acquisition.
I would move we go forward with the proposal that's been presented, do I need to say by Drew, by Rob McNeil, that we go forward with the property acquisitions and the property swap, I guess.
I think that's fair to say. That's 1 acre next to the Constitution Park. That's 3.7 acres in Southtown. And
3.3.
we're acquiring those two pieces of property. We are going to sell 3.3 acres in Ballard City. And that all nets out that we will owe Rob through $30,000.
Yes. Okay.
Is that good for the record?
And I include, the proposal introductions from the agree to it in the minutes. I can include the proposal that you.
Oh, yeah.
To agree to it in the minutes.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Second by Councilman Barrett on that.
Councilman Blumenberg, make a motion.
Yes.
Ma'am. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion passes.
I move we adjourn.
I agree. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Councilman Allen. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
It's our fault.
I saw the thumbs up.
He called me back while.
Right, you did great.